Hey guys, and welcome to another video, and today we are going to be repairing an Instant Pot pressure cooker ourselves, which suddenly refused to power back on. Most of the problems with these pressure cookers may be traced to a blown thermal fuse. So you may be asking, what is this thermal fuse? Just like your house fuse, if the line reaches a certain temperature threshold, the fuse blows as a safety measure to prevent any more current from melting wires and frying circuits. In this case, the fuse can be replaced with a little know-how without spending much money, like buying a whole new cooker. Also to note that this will also void your warranty. But in my case, since Instant Pot recently filed for bankruptcy, really I don't have much to lose here. So let's get into it, shall we? Let's first disconnect everything from power and remove anything that can be removed easily, like the cord, lid, and inner pot. Then we'll flip it upside down so that we can get access to the circuitry. Now we'll need to disassemble the unit. For this model, there's only a few screws to get to the meat of it. Pressure cookers are all different in design, yours may differ. This main cover that you see here is held down by one screw. If you see a screw with a sun-like pattern, it's typically a Torx screw. Here I'm using a T15 screwdriver. Now we'll need to remove the bottom piece to get more space to work with. This is held down by 3 Phillips head screws. Now the thermal fuse can be seen here, held down by a metal bracket near the circuit board. Now to give us more playroom, this whole bottom housing can be completely removed by unclipping the outlet from it. We can now clearly see the outlet indicators. If we follow the red wire, you can see that the fuse is actually between the hot line coming directly from the outlet and the circuit board. Before we continue, we can check for continuity between the outlet line to the circuit if it actually is a blown thermal fuse. This can be done by setting your multimeter to continuity mode. I've activated it to produce an audible beep if there is current going through one end to the other. As a small test, I found a secondary fuse on the circuit board. The sound indicates that this particular fuse is good. Now let's try the thermal fuse. And nothing. So now we know that it's the thermal fuse that's preventing the Instant Pot from turning on. To get to the fuse, I recommend removing the circuit board, which is easily unmounted by these plastic clips. This metal L bracket is held by a single screw. Here I cut the zip tie because I'll be replacing it later. We'll remove the metal L bracket, noting the position over the fuse. Finally, remove the white sheathing to expose the wiring. Notice the orange strip on one end of the fuse. We want to try to maintain the orientation when we replace it with a new one. Cut the leads with a wire cutter, making sure we leave enough space on each end. There should be enough left over for us to solder the new one too. We'll need to strip back the insulation to expose the bare leads of each ends of the wire. Now let's break out the new thermal fuse. Obviously I got mine from Amazon. You'll want to find one that has a near or a bit above the temperature threshold than the original. I've heard that Instant Pot had one that was quite conservative, which often led people to many blown fuses. Now I noticed that this new one doesn't have a vertical strip like the old one. So instead, I'm opting to orientate this according to the similar shape of each ends. Now, just to be sure that we didn't receive any duds, I'll be testing continuity with my multimeter. Again, I'll set this to an audible beep if there is a continuous flow of current. And yes, there is. Now we need to cut the leads, making sure there's enough overlap to solder the wires too. If you want to use heat shrink tubing, now is the time to throw some on each end. Leave them long enough as you can always cut them back. Here's my old soldering tool and solder. When soldering, I'm always recommending the use of flux paste, which helps the solder flow and makes the connections more solid. So I loaded up the tip of my soldering tool and applied the solder directly to the overlapping leads. I repeated this process for the other side. And just a little reminder, you'll always want to do this in a well-ventilated area. You don't want to spend too long applying the solder, just in case the thermal fuse gets too hot. A good idea afterwards is to check for continuity between the outlet and the circuit again, like we did in the beginning. This will confirm that your connection is solid. Now, if you did use heat shrink tubing, you can slide them down and heat them up to cover those bare wires. Now, I've used several sizes just in case. So essentially we're done, and now we just have to put everything back the way we found it. With the metal bracket, we are going to place it over the thermal fuse. We'll have to feel it out because it's covered by the sheathing. I'm using a new zip tie to replace the one I cut. Also make sure that the fuse is in direct physical contact with the metal sides of the inner pot. And now we'll reverse the whole process of taking it apart and putting it together. It's time to power it on. Alright guys, and let's see if this works. In 3, 2, 1. Perfect. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Hit that like button if you did, and comment below if this helped you revive your Instant Pot pressure cooker. Also, if you haven't already, consider subscribing to this humble YouTube channel. Cheers, guys!